So thank you for coming here today and for listening to the voices of the victims who were shot by Officer Ramos. Today you'll be hearing from Yukalo Welowit, Bailey Alexander, and Willis Small, three of the individuals named in the grand jury indictment of Officer Ramos, and three of the individuals who were shot by Officer Ramos. This is not a matter about criminal intent. It is a matter of reckless and outrageous conduct. You heard today from the police union defending the conduct of these officers and blaming the grand jury for their inability to recruit. It is the failure of Denver to hold its officers accountable that makes it difficult for all police officers. Officers may not engage in reckless conduct. They may not shoot into a crowd of 100 to 150 people and expect that there will be no consequences. But that is what Denver is saying here today. That because he didn't have the criminal conduct, the criminal intent to shoot these three people, to put holes in their bodies, that they should not be criminally charged. You do not shoot into a crowd. It is basic. It is a Denver police policy, and it's a policy that has common sense. So Ms. Bailey will say a few words on behalf of the three of them, and then they will all three take questions, after which we wanted to respect your time. We knew a lot of you have deadlines for the 5 o'clock and whatnot shows, so we wanted to give you the opportunity to hear from them. We'll then try to find breakout rooms, and you could individually interview one or more of the victims depending upon your time. I'll also have with me here Chris Whitney and Sierra Anderson, who will be able to answer individual questions about what the legal significance of this shooting and this indictment are. Bailey?
Hi, everybody. Again, I am just going to read a statement on behalf of Yukalo, Willis, and I. I am relieved to hear the news that the grand jury will be indicting Officer Ramos for his reckless actions on July 17th of 2022. This has been a difficult time for me as well as for Yukalo and Willis. Officer Ramos's conduct was in violation of both the law and common sense. This officer fired into a crowd of more than 100 people and shot 5 of us. We were all struck with a bullet from Officer Ramos's gun, and it is by the grace of God that all 3 of us are able to stand here and to talk to you today. As a community, it is important that we hold our police accountable for their actions, whether those actions are intended or not. We understand that this is just the first step on the road to justice.
So they will take questions. You can direct them as a group and they can step forward. You can ask any of the 3 of them individually. Yukalo had a pretty significant surgery. I think some of you have seen photos. I put a photo of the x-ray of the pins in his arm. Bailey has a bullet hole that comes through her back and exits out through her arm. And Mr. Smalls has a portion of the side of his foot missing today.
I was just going to ask if you could provide an update on your recovery.
For me, it's still a progress. I'm still going through therapy. Still kind of weak. I'm still going through therapy for my physical therapy and just general therapy. So I'm still dealing with anxiety and a lot of other stuff that I'm still dealing with.
And can you hear them, or do you need them to step?
If they could step in front of the podium,
Yeah, you have to
that was
step.
fine.
Okay.
You don't need to repeat it, but yeah, moving forward,
Sounds
please.
good.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Bailey?
For the most part, fully recovered physically. Was only able to return back to work about a month ago. Still dealing with small things with the bullet wounds, but for the most part, pretty healed up.
At this point, I am also fully recovered, although I can feel with every step of my left foot the actual impact site. So with every day, I think about that incident.
How'd the three of you react when you heard the news today that an officer was going to actually face charges for what happened that night?
I was pretty surprised in general. I mean, I don't think most of us really expected things to go the way they, didn't expect for criminal charges to be pressed, but very glad that they have been, and just glad that the grand jury has done their due diligence to come to the conclusion that they have.
Can you say more about why you weren't expecting an indictment?
Just with the way that, things work in society these days, and with towards police officers, I just expected, a lot more people to be on the police officers' sides than the victim sides.
For the people who are on the police officer's side who are saying that this isn't right, you heard about the mayor's statement, what would you want them to know from your perspective?
That was a rough night. I mean, from going back to previous interviews and stuff, we didn't necessarily have any time or anything to react, and the police officers definitely are in the wrong in this particular instance. I mean, they shot into an entire crowd of people and injured multiple of us. That's definitely not something I would expect or want to happen in the hands of police officers.
Yeah, and let's keep in mind that you do not shoot into a massive crowd. As the law and the police officers are not above the law. So let's just keep that in mind.
Can you talk a little bit, you keep saying officers, only one of them has been indicted. Do you wish that there had been more done? Do you wish that the other officers had also faced some sort of accountability? And then the second question, can you talk about, do you hope to see this send a bigger message to DPD, to the officers, just across the state? So talk a little bit about both if you can.
I'll just say that I'm glad that this one police officer has been criminally charged. And as for sending a bigger message, yes, I definitely hope for this to send a much larger message to DPD to think about the way that they train their police officers and act upon instances like this that happen.
Today, Mayor Hancock called your injuries regrettable, and he said that he is surprised that the grand jury found the officer's actions involved criminal intent. Any response to that? Are you calling your injuries regrettable?
Regrettable would be an understatement. As she stated earlier, it's a blessing that any of us are even standing here today, let alone the other people who were hit by bullets shot from an officer's gun who should be trained properly not to shoot in crowds. And any of us could have been the officers or the mayor's child or daughter, son, or anybody who was downtown just enjoying themselves as well. So regrettable is definitely an understatement.
Regrettable is not the right word here. The word the mayor should have used is preventable. These injuries were all preventable. They should never have happened. Officer Ramos should never have shot into a crowd of 100 to 150 people. It's common sense. And that is why this officer is being held accountable. That is why this officer must face the criminal justice system, because his conduct was reckless.
Do any of you want to share just generally how you felt about police before this incident and how you feel now?
For me,
You can stand up.
Oh, okay. We see these type of things all over the news all the time. So the event taking place and the way it took place, I wasn't surprised at all. But I do salute the DA office for looking at the evidence, taking their time, and coming to a conclusion that they did.
You're talking about how this was a Saturday night out. I'm wondering, had you guys gone out to a bar or something like that on a Saturday? And if so, how did you feel about it?
I personally chose to stay in on New Year's Eve, which is the most recent night that everybody would choose to go out, especially at my age. Personally, because I figured if anything, there would be more chances of some gunfire on a night like that rather than a random night where we all got hit downtown by a professional who's actually supposed to be providing safety for us.
Look at the situation. Denver has blamed the vendors, the food truck vendors, and stopped allowing the food truck vendors from parking their trucks down there at night. They have, in essence, said to young people, well, maybe you shouldn't go out in the evening and celebrate and enjoy your life with your friends. What they need to do to have a safer community is for the Denver Police Department, the mayor, and the city and county of Denver as a whole, is they need to look introspectively. They need to look at their police department. They need to look at their training. They need to look at their officers' accuracy in being able to handle a firearm. If you shoot a gun at an individual and you hit 5 other people, what does that say about the level of training, about the level of a responsibility that we need to hold officers to? It's not about young people going out on a Saturday night and having a few drinks with their friends, celebrating a birthday, celebrating a special event with a loved one. It's about holding the police department accountable and making the entire community safer.
And to go back to your question, every time I see a police officer, when I'm driving, I have the shivers, I feel anxious. And anywhere I go into a mass crowd or something, I'm always feeling anxious and looking around me, making sure that there isn't a hectic situation going on. So I live that on a daily basis now, and that has never happened to me prior to that situation. So I wouldn't wish this upon anybody. Yeah.
Is this your birthday?
It was my fiance's little brother's birthday that day, and we just went out to dinner, and we were just trying to show him a good time when that took place. The way it ended, I ended up in the hospital, so not so well.
What was your injuries?
I got shot in my arm, shattered my humerus bone, and the bullet was still in there, so I had to do surgery 2 weeks later to have it removed. I'm still going through physical therapy, and I was physically active before then, and now still going through a hard time where I could barely go to the gym and release my stress, so I can't even do that anymore, so it's a heartbreak for sure.
These are individuals who represent Denver. Yakalo's dad worked as a janitor at University of Denver, and Yakalo went to University of Denver on a full ride scholarship. Bailey here is a surgical assistant, and she actually just came from a surgery and came straight here. These are individuals, young individuals, students, family members starting their lives, with their loved ones. Bailey was out there with her boyfriend. Yakala was there with his fiance. These are everyday people. These are our children. These are our neighbors who were shot by the police. It could happen to anyone unless we stand up as a community and say enough is enough. That Denver, you must hold the police officers accountable. And that is what the district attorney is doing here. That's what the grand jury is doing here. They're trying to hold Denver accountable. They're trying to make the Denver Police Department a safer place for all its citizens.
This question is for you then, Mr. Rafad. The PTA had brought up in their statement the violent crime rates in Denver and that the suspect shouldn't have been out, that he had a ankle monitor, and basically said it's not their fault, he shouldn't have been out anyways. What's your response to their claims that some of our policies have put them in a position to have to respond like this?
Officer Ramos also received a PR bond. Officer Ramos is out walking on the street after having shot 5 people. And that is exactly where he should be, because he has yet to be adjudicated by the criminal justice system. And when he is eventually convicted by the criminal justice system, that is when the criminal punishment comes in. That is how our criminal justice system works. And the Denver Police Union knows this. They know this. They know it's an easy target to blame their misconduct on someone else. It's their responsibility to look at this and say, what can we learn from this situation? What could the officers have done better? What could Officer Ramos have done better? And how can we train our other officers to do better next time? Because there will be a next time. And next time it will be someone else's son or daughter who gets shot. And maybe next time that bullet won't enter her back and exit her arm, but it will permanently paralyze or kill that next person. And that is what these 3 brave souls are up here telling you. That the police department needs to hold itself accountable. It's not about a few bad apples if the police department won't introspectively look in and pick out that rot. It means the entire barrel is rotted. And that is why they have a hard time recruiting and keeping police officers. No one wants to work with somebody who's dangerous or bad at their job. People want good training. The citizens want their officers well trained. The citizens and other police want their officers held accountable. That makes it safer for police officers, and it makes it safer for the citizens of Colorado. Anybody else have any questions?
I just wondered, did you also file a civil lawsuit, and how does this indictment impact that other case? Can you speak to that?
We haven't filed a civil lawsuit yet. That's something we're still investigating and gathering all the information to do.